it gives us an edge is what coaches want to hear, right? Like competitive cheerleading coaches, we want to know how we can get to the top and how we can win, right? So mental training is what's going to give you that edge. But beyond that, just training the minds of these athletes is going to help them beyond the mat, right? In everyday life skills. I think youth sports today is all about being elite and having the best equipment and getting into the best colleges and elite level programs. And it's like, hold on a second, these are kids. Like, let's give them a chance to love the sport. Let's give them a chance to find enjoyment in it. I think that that's very big missed part of youth sports today.
Welcome to today's episode of Here for Cheer. I'm your host, Megan Gomarlo, and I am very excited for today's guest. Her name is Kara Frair, and she is the owner of More Than Skill, which is a company fully focused on training the next generation on how to train their minds and their mental game as much as they train their bodies and their muscles. With us heading into showcase season, comp season, I think that the mindset, the mental game, especially in today's world, is so important for our athletes. And I'm very excited to have her on today to give us those takeaways that we can start implementing as coaches and also parents. Great advice for you. And then for our athletes, that you can implement this stuff as you're going into these high pressure situations of our season. So, welcome to the show, Kara.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I agree with everything you just said. And I'm thrilled to be here. You've had an amazing lineup of guests so far. So I'm honored. Thank you so much.
And we are equally as honored to have you here. So, let's kick things off with just you kind of explaining to our listeners what mental toughness or mindset really is all about and why it's so important.
Yeah, it's important because it gives us an edge is what coaches want to hear, right? Like competitive cheerleading coaches, we want to know how we can get to the top and how we can win, right? So mental training is what's going to give you that edge. But beyond that, just training the minds of these athletes is going to help them beyond the mat, right? In everyday life skills. Like I talk to my clients about taking tests, relationships with friends, things like that. And all of that mental training and mindset stuff that we talk about goes into their everyday life. So for the coaches and athletes and parents that are listening, I just want to convey the importance of it. And it's for everybody. Like the stuff that I talk about, it's not just for the kids. Like all of my coaching staff used to use our strategies, and a lot of parents will come to me and say, that makes so much sense. I'm going to do that for myself. So it just kind of helps you grow, develop as a person, and be able to handle stressful situations, be able to bounce back from mistakes, understand how to build confidence, develop focus, things like that. So I think that mental training is grossly misunderstood. It's grossly misundertrained, I should say. And it goes across youth sports. I think youth sports today is all about being elite and having the best equipment and getting into the best colleges and elite level programs. And it's like, hold on a second, these are kids. We got to remember these are kids that we're
Yes.
dealing with. Their brains are not developed yet. Like, let's give them a chance to love the sport. Let's give them a chance to find enjoyment in it. I think that that's very big missed part of youth sports today. So I kind of wanted to make it my mission to just like bring that part of it back to the forefront.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And we at Here for Cheer wholeheartedly agree with you. A love of the sport is so important, keeping it
Mhm.
fun, athletes falling in love with the sport for the long term and not just focusing on wins and losses is essential. So how can we start to build that mental strength in our kids in this generation?
Yeah, absolutely. So the very first thing is just like, you have to set an intentional goal for yourself, right? Like, if we want to start implementing mental training into our practices, the first thing we have to do is put it in your practice plan. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And I know I was the same way as a coach. Like, my practice plans are down to the minute, and we don't have a second of it to waste, especially when we're getting into comp season. We have score sheet review and things like that. So I get a little bit of pushback from coaches when I'm talking about implementing mental training into your practices, but really all it takes is 5 minutes. The first thing you can do is just sit your athletes down and say, like, hey guys, we're going to start doing some mental training. at every practice. Maybe it's 5 minutes, but it's going to help you overcome those jitters when you're backstage. It's going to help you understand how to be confident. It's going to help you get over the fear of tumbling or stunting or whatever it is. And so kind of you can kind of preface them with that. But the very first tool that I suggest anybody uses when they start implementing mental training is breath work. And I'll probably say that like a million times throughout the episode today.
No, I love
But
it.
yes, so just you can set a timer for 1 minute and just have your athletes take deep, slow breaths in through their nose, out through their mouth. It helps just regulate their nervous system, especially when their nervous systems are overactive. They're kind of freaking out about everything, and everything is a big deal. Breath work is just going to calm them down, lower their breath rate, lower their heart rate, activate that parasympathetic nervous system, reduce the cortisol that's pumping through their bloodstream, especially like before going on stage. And it's the easiest mental strategy that's out there. It's the most effective one, and it's always the one that I have all of my clients, teams, and individuals start with. So that's my suggestion to everyone. Start with a little bit of breath work, work your way up from there. The second thing is that we want to make sure with kids that we're not just talking at them. It's like a big pet peeve of mine. So we
Yes,
don't want to just sit them down and say, we're talking about mental strategy. This is how you be confident. This is how you focus. Like that's going to go in through one ear, out through the other, right? So we want
absolutely.
to make sure we're gamifying things, making it fun, demonstrating, showing them actually how it's done, and just making it an experience for them that they're going to remember. So any strategy that we talk about today, or any strategy that you as coaches come across, just think to yourself, how can I turn this into a game? How can I make it fun for them? And it'll be 10 times more effective.
Yes, and I think that's a great piece of advice for
Hmm.
every bit of practice, like the best coaches are able to get things done effectively and efficiently, but at the same time, the kids enjoy it and they're having a
Yes.
good time at practice. They're looking forward to come to practice, and I think that's so important. So now, when you're implementing, mindset into a practice plan, would you recommend doing it at the start of your practice, or like to kind of close things down, or maybe both and bookend it?
It depends. So normally I would start with it at the beginning of practice. So we would get together. We always would give our kids um, time to communicate. I think that's really important. And it does go
Yes.
hand in hand with mental strategy. So we bring them in. You're going to tell them, this is what we're doing today. Like, let your kids know this is what's on the agenda for today so that they're prepared for it. Right. But then we would always say, like, if something's going on, you're not feeling well, something happened, like, come talk to a coach. Let's make sure that everybody's on the same page. It opens the line of communication for them. It's going to help them trust you. It's going to build better bridge between you and the athletes, right? But after
Yes.
that, we would go into our mental strategy training. So it could be 5 to 10 minutes. The other thing I'll mention is I do have like a checklist for coaches where we're kind of using strategy throughout the practice. So the beginning would be kind of like the tool that they're learning for that day or the reminder. But then in the middle of practice, we're going to take five. We're going to say, everybody take a few deep breaths. I want you to go find a teammate, hype them up, tell them what they're doing great. And then we'll get back to what we're doing. And then at the end of practice, maybe sometimes we'll have them like rate their self talk. Like, guys, how are you in your head today on a scale of 1 to 10? Like, were you over here towards, growth mindset, positive self-talk? Were you over here to fixed mindset, negative self-talk? Rate yourself. Let's see if we can make that a little bit better next practice. So you can kind of sprinkle it throughout, but I think it
Yes.
sets the tone to do it at the beginning. And that way they can also practice the tool that you introduce throughout the practice.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's great advice. And I'm sure you have a lot of different exercises, that you include with more than scale. But if you could just pick one to kind of give everybody as a takeaway that they could start right now, obviously the breath
Mhm.
work, I love that.
Yep.
I have a breathing app that I'm starting to try to use in the morning and
Oh,
at night. Yeah,
yay.
at 44, like I said, it's kind of I'm on supplements now, like, things are
Yes.
just kinda changing, and, one of the most important things that, my doctor said was that breath work is so important in meditation, and,
Mhm.
and it's something that has been touched on in other episodes that great leaders in our sport have talked about, and I'm like, "Hey, I need to get on board too." So, yes, in addition to that breath work piece, if there was one activity that you could give as a takeaway today that a coach could head into practice tonight and do, what would that be?
So I was debating while you were asking which one I wanted to share. I think hope maybe we'll have time for two at the
Okay.
end.
Yes,
But
absolutely. You can share too.
okay, one of the most effective ones that I actually just had one of my clients do. She's working on tumbling. She's having a little bit of a setback in her tumbling. She's an elite tumbler, combo through to doubles. But she's having some trouble throwing it, right? So the skill that we worked on this previous week was visualization. Whoa, so powerful. Okay. I do visualization a little bit different. I call it the mega visualization because there's a lot that goes into it. So when you think of visualizing, like you just close your eyes and you're picturing something that's happening, right? So what I teach my athletes is a little bit more in depth than that. So we pick a goal, specific goal. For her, it was to do her full on the rod floor. So very specific goal that she wanted to accomplish that week. So as she's visualizing this happening, first of all, you can do it in first person or third person. So you're either watching yourself do it like from a video camera or you're
Mhm.
in your own body doing it, right? So you can do both. But the second thing you're doing during your visualization is you're taking note of all five senses. So inside your visualization, you're saying, okay, what am I seeing? I'm seeing the floor. I'm seeing um, my feet. I don't know. I'm seeing the lights in the ceiling when I'm going upside down, right? What are you hearing? Maybe you're hearing coach feedback. In her particular visualization, she was hearing like other athletes working around her. What are you smelling? This one's hard.
Yeah.
Maybe you're smelling the gym. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tasting, that one's also a little bit hard, but sometimes I say like you're tasting your dry mouth or you're tasting, maybe you just had a snack before you went in, you're like tasting it in your mouth. What are you feeling? Touch is so important. So like you're feeling your hands on the floor, you're feeling yourself block through your shoulders, you're feeling your feet placement on the ground or your head placement in your spin, right? So all of these five senses are coming into play when they're visualizing. And then there's two other pieces of it. The next piece is your thoughts. So you're going to be aware of your thoughts as you are visualizing. So as you are entering into your round off or your back handspring or you're blocking for your full, like what are your thoughts? Are you thinking I'm scared? Are you thinking this isn't going to go well? Are you thinking like I'm not going to be able to do this? So actually being aware of your thoughts inside your visualization is part of it. You want to make sure you're monitoring those. You want to make sure you're tending towards a little bit more of the positive self-talk in your visualization. And the last thing is attaching emotion. So this is the big piece that everybody misses when we're doing visualization exercises, attaching emotion to it. So it's easy to sit here and think to myself, okay, my team is going to win worlds. This is what I'm picturing when we're winning, right? But you want to feel those emotions that you would feel when you are going to win worlds right now. That's how we bring it closer to ourselves. That's how we kind of manifest it to start to sound a little bit woo woo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, so if you're taking those steps, if you have a specific goal, if you're attaching all five senses throughout your visualization, monitoring your thoughts, and then also attaching emotions, you're going to be able to bring whatever it is you want to yourself closer, faster. This particular athlete that I'm referencing, after she did a week of visualization that was every day was her homework to do that. She went to her private lesson and was able to do 8 fulls on the rod floor, which I
Yay.
was like, "Hey, that's a huge win," you know?
Yes, I love
So I
that.
think it's a powerful exercise. We used to do this all the time. So for coaches listening, you can put on your music. Now it's the time of year we all have music, right? We're getting excited. So sit your team down, they close their eyes. What are we visualizing right now, guys? Is it a hit? Maybe. Is it our elite stunts hit? Is it you are timed in your tumbling passes? Like, let's pick a specific goal. We're going to turn on the music and you're going to visualize it happening, but you're going to use all those things. And it takes practice, right?
Yeah.
The first time you sit down to visualize, that's a lot. All five senses, your thoughts, your emotions, like, whoa. So you have just like any other skill, any other physical skill, you have to practice it over and over again. So I like to do that. Um, Another way that I do visualization is through a written exercise that I love. It's one of my favorite ones. And I do a lot of journal exercises with my teams and individual clients. So I have them journal about the goal as if it has already happened. And I call it their remember when exercise.
Oh, I
So
love
we say,
that.
remember when XYZ, right? This past season, I did it with my teams. Remember when we won All Star Worlds? The gym I went to was All Star Worlds gym. So they all sat down, they wrote it. I wrote mine, read it to them. It was so good. And it was so detailed because by that time of the season, we had been doing this over and over again. So they're like talking about the sweat when they're holding hands, like
Oh,
in
I
the
love
award
it.
circle. Yes. And like how they're jumping up
Yeah.
and down, crying. Like they were so good at describing the emotions. They were so good at describing how it felt after they hit the routine, yada, yada, yada. So we went to All Star Worlds. We did amazing. And one of my teams actually won silver medal. So
Yay.
I think it's just like it's a cool little proof
No.
exercise of, this stuff really works. I feel like I'm, almost having to convince people like your mental training is actually going to result in better performance outcomes
Yes.
if you take the time to do it. It does sound kind of like woo woo. And a lot of times you just want to be working on the physical skills and what the score sheet says. But if you take the time to implement it, it really does work.
Yes. And
Hmm.
especially, I love to look into other sports and get
Hmm.
takeaways from some of the greatest basketball, softball,
Yep.
soccer, gymnasts, all of those things. And it is always something that they believe in. And, they are
Hmm.
hiring specific people to help them with their mental game. Even the best of the best. And not only because they're struggling, it is
Yep.
used as a tool to, like you said, give them that edge.
Hmm.
Everybody wants an edge above their competitor. And this is one that I think you're hitting the nail on the head, that you don't have to have some kind of issue. Like, you don't need to
Hmm.
be non-confident in tumbling to need mental training. Like, you
Hmm.
can be the happiest, most confident person in the world, and this still will continue to up your game to handle high pressure situations, and is essential for everyone. Um,
Yes.
and so, some of this stuff too that might be better and geared towards maybe a little kid a kid that's more aware of this kind of stuff as an athlete. What about for those littles? When we've got tinies and minis and we're working so hard to build growth mindset,
Hmm.
what's some ways that we can kind of start this process even there with our littles?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you asked this. So last year I did a workshop for a first grade class. So I really did have to like, okay, how am I gonna convey this information to these little 6 and 7 year olds, right?
Yeah.
It was difficult, but I go back to gamifying and making it fun for them. So what I did with those little ones is we played a game, we called it the flamingo game. So they had to stand up and balance on one leg and see how long they could do it. Okay. It was pretty easy for them. I thought it was going to be harder. I thought they were going to be falling all over the place.
Yeah.
They weren't. So I made it harder. I'm like, okay, now you're going to stand on one leg, but close your eyes. Okay. So we take away that sense. And now they're like really tipping over. And then I said, okay, now I want you to pay attention to what you're saying to yourself in your head while you're balancing. So are you saying to yourself, like, I can do this and this is so fun and I'm going to outlast my friends, that kind of thing? Or are you saying, like, oh, I'm going to tip over? So I challenged them to think about up here. What am I thinking in my head and see if they could do it for even longer? And so that was just a method of proof that we used, right?
Yeah.
So that worked out really well. And then the other thing I did was story time. So I told them a story about Susie. She's a basketball player, and she was taking the game-winning shot, and she missed. And of course, all the kids are like, "Oh," I'm like, "I
Yeah.
know, poor Susie." They're so cute. They're so into it. I almost like
Yes.
working with little kids more because they are like just hanging on to your every word. They're not
Yes.
judging you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that was fun. And I told them like, "What would you say to Susie after she misses this game-winning shot?" So cute. "Susie, it's okay. You can try harder next time. I'm still going to be your friend. I'll practice your shots with you." Whatever. They came up with the cutest things. And then I said, "Guys, you can talk to yourself the same way that you would talk to Susie. So be a friend to yourself. Pretend like you're your own best friend. When you make a mistake, talk to yourself like you would talk to Susie." And like all the light bulbs turn on. They're like, "Oh, okay." And I had some visuals. Like, I think that goes a long way. I'm always creating like poster boards,
Mhm.
any kind of visual I can to like get this across no matter the age. So I had like we did red words, which were like, I can't, I'm no good at this. She's better than me. And then I had green words that was like, I can do this. I got this. This is so fun. I'm excited. So I'm like, want to try to hold up the green words, when you're talking to yourself. And that was pretty
Yeah.
effective.
Oh, I
So
love
just little
it.
things like that. Every practice go a long way.
Oh, absolutely. And man, just in a classroom setting, I love that you were there
Hmm.
and that was important to, and to even education, it's needed, it's necessary for these kids. They
Yes.
need they need us to help giving them these tools in today's world. I think more than ever with social media and comparison,
Yes.
and it's a different world that we don't know, we didn't live in. So
That's what I say. I get
they
in
need this.
arguments with people, like, on my TikTok. They're like they think that kids are so soft, and, the things that I say, I'm like, I'm like,
No,
"Did you grow up like this? Did
we
you grow up wi
didn't.
attached to a phone? Like, all this sensory and stimulus? Like, you didn't." They're
No.
living in a completely different world, and we have to give them
Absolutely. We
tools,
have to
so,
help them succeed. Yes, I
yes.
think yes, absolutely. Okay, so you touched a little bit on journaling. Can you talk about that of some things that athletes can do to journal, whether in a practice setting or at home even?
Yes, I have several different journaling, prompts that we use. So and it can be you can kind of tailor it to what you want to get out of your athlete. So the remember one is a great thing. Um, one that I just did with one of my clients was traits that I associate with like a good athlete. I'm trying to think of the words I use, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Um, think something I wish I could talk to my friends about. Just like any kind of vague where they can like interpret it themselves. Um, what I want to be known for is a really good one.
I love that.
So it just kind of gets them thinking like into the future.
Yeah,
And we talk a lot about, their identity as an athlete. So we try to separate the outcome from the daily habits that it takes to get to the outcome. So I want to get my full. Okay, well, let's not put all the pressure on getting the full. Let's talk about the type of athlete that gets the full. Like the type of
mhm.
athlete that gets the full is in the gym training. They're doing the drills. They're asking questions. Whatever it is, and
Yes,
so they can identify those habits to get to the outcome. That's a really good journal prompt as well.
I love it. And then with those journals too, I think it's so important that it's theirs. Like I know when we are big believers in journaling and, to our kids, it's always number one, you're not doing this for perfection or for anyone to read it. Like this is yours. You keep this journal later on. Cause I find sometimes even when we've done gratitude exercises, for example, and those kids that are perfectionists are wanting to say what they think will make you proud. Does that make sense? So I'm
Yes,
like, what are you grateful
absolutely.
for? And I try to say, guys, it can literally be that mom, stopped at Starbucks this morning. It can be something so silly. It doesn't have to be, world peace or food on the table or like a house over my head. It can be the silliest Mr. L didn't give homework in math today. Like whatever it is to you that you're just finding gratitude in the small things. And so I love the journal piece and then allowing it to be theirs to just brain
Yep.
dump. And we say it all the time, but I think it's so important that you provide the prompts because we're
Hmm.
always like, guys, just brain dump. Get in your journal, get in the notes on your phone, brain dump whatever you're feeling, like just get it
Hmm.
out so that it's not stuck in your body. But with prompts, I think that's great because it kind of helps guide them through different things. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that.
it's good to have them keep it their own, like you say, because I don't ever ask them to hand it in. I just say, right. But a lot of the times they want to share. They're really
Yeah.
eager to share what they wrote down,
Yes.
which is great. But I deal with the same thing as far as, kids are smart. So some of these kids are sitting in the session with me and I'm like, you're saying that because you know that that's the right answer. But
Yes.
like, one of the first things we talk about is like, let's have integrity. Let's be honest and open with each other because we're not going to get anywhere if you're just telling me the answers that I want to hear. Right.
Yes.
So the journaling is a good piece for them to they have to write it and they don't have to share it. So they're probably being more honest when they're putting it on paper.
Mhm. No, that's
Yeah.
so good. Okay, so you touched a little bit on that self-talk
Mhm.
of those kind of red words and those green words. What are some other strategies for athletes to kind of help build that positive self-talk muscle as they're heading
Absolutely.
into their sport?
So the very first thing that I work on with anybody, team, first grade, individual client, awareness. Have to be aware of what you're thinking before we can ever even think about reframing or switching it up there, whatever. So we take weeks because I got to know that you know what's going on up there. What are you thinking? Is there a pattern that you're noticing? Are you learning anything? Are your thoughts tending to be about something in the past, something in the future, or is it something right now? So many kids are just like labeling their day. Like they're like, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I don't want to be at school. It's like very present moment. A lot of my more anxious and overwhelmed athletes are thinking past. They're thinking, just mess that up so bad. Or they're thinking future, like, I can't mess that up again. Right. So, want to have a good hold on what it's like up there. And the most important thing I tell them is when you're being aware of your thoughts, you don't have to judge them. You don't have to have a thought and then say, oh, that was not good. Just let it go by. So, watch it like a train. It's just going by or a cloud that's floating by. Once we have that awareness piece, then we can start working on it after that. So, The best strategy that I have, I already shared, which is to talk to yourself like you would talk to your friend, right? So if your friend is struggling with a stunt, her stunt keeps falling over and over again, right? What are you saying to her? You're saying like, it's fine, you've got it. Maybe try this, maybe a little constructive feedback, or you're saying like, I believe in you, you guys can do this. Talk to yourself like that, right? That's the number one self-talk strategy that I have. But the other one is just a reframe. So I like to use the reframe mistakes equals data. I tell my kids, when you make a mistake, you're just going to kind of pretend like you're entering it into the spreadsheet of your mind. This is a mistake I made. This is the day I made it. This is what happened. This is what I learned from it. And now I know not to do it again. It's just adding to your repertoire of tools that you can use to get better, to increase your performance, right? That's what making mistakes is. And I have a million reframes, like, pressure is an opportunity, or criticism from your coach is just coaching. Like, criticism is coaching. So it's all about how you look at things. I just told one of my athletes last night that she can look at things as if she's putting on a pair of glasses. So she has showcase this weekend, and she tends to get very overwhelmed when there's a lot of stimulus. So showcase, there's going to be tons of people there. It's going to be her family and friends from school. Gym's going to be filled with chairs. Just a lot of stimulus, and she gets overwhelmed. She wants to escape when that happens. So I told her, pretend like you're picking up a pair of glasses before you go on a showcase. The first pair of glasses is like, you're looking at things like, this is overwhelming. I don't want to mess up in front of everybody. I got to get out of here. This is too much, right? Or the second pair of glasses you're putting on is like this. I get to go spend time with my friends, get to perform my routine that I love. We just got our music. It sounds amazing. I can't wait to listen to it. I can't wait to watch every other team in the gym. We have team bonding after. That's going to be so fun. So it's all about how you're framing things. But you have to make the choice to be able to do that. And in order to make the choice, you have to know what's going on, which is why that first piece is so important. Sometimes I'll have oh, I don't have a hair tie on my wrist, but sometimes I'll have my athletes move the hair tie over when they realize they've had a thought. So they're at practice and they're thinking to themselves, oh, this conditioning is going to be so hard. Smooth the hair tie. You just had a thought. It's like a physical way to keep track of it, and
I
it helps
love
them
that.
realize, yeah. Or move the penny over. That's hard because we don't really have pockets.
Yeah.
And I haven't really thought of a good one for boys because boys don't wear hair ties around their wrists. So if anybody listening has an idea for how to physically get them to understand their thoughts, that would be helpful. But yeah, that's just a little exercise I get them to do to realize what's happening.
I love that so
Hmm.
much. Oh, yes. Okay. So, more specifically, those kids that are dealing with, I love to say it's confidence because a lot of the times it's not a mental block yet. It's a
Hmm.
lack of confidence, but everybody slaps. You have a mental block, and it becomes and everybody's freaking out. The kid's freaking out. The coach is freaking out. The parents are freaking out.
Ay, ay, ay.
So I would love to hear some of your advice um, to all three of those roles. To an athlete first, let's start, and then we'll move on
Okay.
to a coach support and a parent support at home.
Okay. So when an athlete is dealing with something along the lines of what you're talking about, like a mental block, I don't call it mental block anymore. I call it a nerve pause because mental block just, it sounds so finite. It sounds like immovable, and like it can't be fixed, that word. And now it's become that, truly. Like, if a kid hears mental block, it's like
Oh,
it's over.
yeah.
You're never tumbling
Everyone's
again, right?
it's
So
the worst
I don't use
words
that
to hear.
terminology. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't use that terminology anymore. I just say nerve pause because that kind of feels like, okay, just a little pause. It's a little bump in the road.
Ugh, I
And
love
in
that.
fact, I do compare it to a highway. So we build all these neural connections in our brains, right? And some of them are like a super highway, 4-lane highway in Germany, where you're going 120 miles per hour. Just go super fast, walking, talking. And for many of our athletes, tumbling is a super highway. They're so good at it, right? But then something happens. We have a too much pressure from a coach or parent. We have a family situation at home, or maybe not doing so well in school, or a fall, right? Any of those things can contribute to this happening. But how I kind of explain it to them is they have this super highway and then something happens and then all of a sudden it's kind of like a 2-lane highway. Well, then it goes down to a 1-lane highway and it's like 50 miles per hour. And then it goes to a side street and then it goes to a gravel road and then it goes to a dirt road, right? So it's kind of like that super highway just trickles down. But the good thing about it is we just rebuild it. That's it. But we rebuild it one step at a time, right? So we go piece by piece and we rebuild it up. The number one way To your point about confidence, and I have a whole other spiel about confidence, but I'll give you this little piece. If you want me to expand, I will. We have to show our athletes that they have value. And this goes beyond mental block. This is, as a coach, it is your job to find what makes that athlete valuable and celebrate it with them. And it doesn't have to be physical skill. Many of the times it's not physical skill. Maybe they
Yes.
show up on time. Maybe they're always prepared. Maybe they're drama free. Maybe their parent pays their bill on time. Maybe they're a great teammate. Maybe they're
Yes.
an excellent performer. The kid has value.
Yes.
And, when we get into professional sports and you're talking about the NBA, go for it and say, that guy sucks. He shouldn't be on this team. Go for it. He's an adult. These are kids. Every
Yes.
single one of them has value about them. So it's your job to determine what that is. When we're dealing with mental block, nerve pause, we have to take the pressure off of that skill and highlight something that they do really great. So if we have a tumbler that's having issues, we say to them, God, you did that dance so good. Like, it was so sharp. I I would love for everybody to do the dance like that and just hype them up. And then all of a sudden they stop thinking so much about the tumbling and they put their focus back on what they're great at, which the score sheet is not just tumbling. We have to have all of the pieces and parts to make it work. So we put that emphasis back on that part of it. I guess that's more of the from the coach's standpoint, right?
Yeah.
So I'll go back now. We'll go back to the athlete. And this is what I was talking about where I have kind of a process or a puzzle for the athlete themselves. So my confidence formula or I call it a puzzle piece because I think it all comes together. Reps. That part is difficult when we're having a nerve pause, but try reps somewhere. Maybe you could wrap it out on the tumble track. Maybe you can do drills. I always talk about mental reps. Just did that with one of my clients last night. Take a drill that you helped you learn how to do a full and rep it out in your head. Mental reps count just as much as physical reps. Okay. So reps is number one, proof is number two. So those small wins. If you're working on getting your back handspring back and you were able to do it with a spot, that's a win. It's proof.
Yes.
We celebrate it. Okay. We don't put it in
Yes.
the column of loss, we put it in the column of win. The third part is the self talk piece. So if I'm an athlete and somebody that's struggling with my tumbling, I'm going to be pretty aware of my self talk because chances are it's not the greatest, right? So we want to make sure that even if it feels fake and even if it feels untrue, we're still saying to ourselves, like, I'm good at this. I'm a good tumbler. I am safe. This is fun. I love tumbling. Brings me joy, whatever it is. There's a million different mantras we can use, right? Support is so important. And this is where the parent piece comes in too. You want to have somebody that's there that also believes in you. And it's not just yourself fighting your own battles. So we want to make sure we have a parent or coach and teammates that are there doing what I just said, which is making sure they realize their own value, right? Resilience, because we're going to fall, we're going to mess it up. We got to be able to bounce back. And then a little sprinkle of delusion is my last piece. It's the little voice in your head that's like, "Oh, maybe I can do this, right?" It just takes a little bit, but I like to sprinkle that in my formula. Um, when I have an athlete that is, standing in the corner like they all do, they're getting ready to do that tumbling pass that they're afraid of. Or actually, I should rephrase, we use this a lot. This next thing I'm going to tell you about, it can be used like in any scenario. Honestly, you could like walk into taking a test doing this. You can walk into a podcast recording, but it's called a power stance. Okay. So it's an acronym, POWER. P stands for power phrase. So that's what's in your head. I did a workshop with the high school the other night last week, and they loved some of my suggestions for power phrase. Like, I'm him. The kids, let's say, I'm him, main character, full
Yes.
send, unbothered, fear who. So they were like, loving all of that. So your power phrase is that thing you're going to tell yourself over and over again. Should be short, 2 or 3 word sentence that you can just kind of repeat it, hype yourself up a little bit.
Yep.
Um, O is for open chest, right? So we want to stand confident. This is a physical manifestation of confidence. Wide smile, because we're here, we're having fun. We love this. It's part of what brings us joy in life. E is elevated chin, right? It's not cocky, it's just confident. And then R is relaxed shoulders. So I think of like a dog that has their tail tucked. It's kind of like they're like scared and afraid. So
Yeah.
like relax your shoulders. So that's my power stance. And that's what I'll give to the athlete when they're struggling, they're feeling not so confident. And maybe like you said, it's not a mental block. It's just like a learning process, which is what tumbling
Yes.
is, right? We're literally running at full speed most of the time, hurling ourselves into the floor, bounding off the floor, flipping and spinning several times. This is not a safe thing. Okay. So we have to rewire our brains to understand that this is a safe thing. And that's one thing I would say to the parents. Since you asked me about all three people, parents have a hard time understanding that mental blocks, nerve pauses, are rooted in biology. This is a biological process, right? That happens when our brain senses danger. And like I just said, hurling yourself into the floor backwards is a dangerous thing. Your brain is automatically like, no, we're not doing this. We are going to get severely injured, right? So, in order to override that process, it takes a lot of reps, it takes a lot of self talk, it takes a lot of progression, right? Understanding that the first thing we do is a forward roll to get spatial awareness all the way up to those spinning skills. So, the parents have a hard time understanding that this isn't just a bit of drama from their kids
Mhm.
or a bit of defiance,
Yes.
you know, or them being weak or them being unmotivated. Like this is an actual thing. And it's hard to wrap their head around. They've never tumbled before. I just was talking to my husband about a mental block client that I have. And he's like, what's that? I'm like, well, do you remember Simone Biles in the Olympics? And she couldn't do her routine. She had to drop out of the Olympics. That's what that is. It's real. If
Yes.
Simone Biles had it, your kid can have it too.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I would just ask parents to give
Normalizing.
them grace. Yes, normalize it. There has to be a lot of grace. And it's the same thing with the parents. Like, your all your kid wants from you is some love.
And
Like
pride.
all they
Like,
want to
I'm
do is
so
they want
proud
to
of
please
you.
you.
Yes.
They want to please
Yes.
you. They want to hear that you're proud of them and that you've
Mhm.
done a good job. That's all they're looking for. So give them that. Hey, I saw you at practice. Dude, you don't even have to ask them about tumbling. I saw you at practice today. I saw your group struggling, but you know what I saw? I saw you give a little pat on the back to your teammate. And I thought that was great leadership. I thought you were a great teammate.
Mhm.
Good job. I'm really proud of that.
Yes.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yes.
So my advice is just kind of take the pressure off of the tumbling, put the spotlight on something that they're doing really good. Maybe it's not even cheer. Maybe it's in school. Oh, you did so good on that, test or whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great advice, and I think it's so important that we do our job as coaches, gym owners, of normalizing, of
Mhm.
accepting and understanding it. Like, I think gym owners need to hear you talk about it, you know, and need to understand it from a professional versus us also just assuming, you know, that kids aren't wanting it or aren't
Right.
motivated. Like you're saying, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think
Hmm.
we need to educate our parents about it because what they don't know they write their own narrative for, you know? So,
Yes.
like, it's important that we are recognizing the importance of mental training, that we are recognizing these kind of nerve pauses and
Hmm.
communicating that to parents so they want to be the best they can. I truly believe
Hmm.
every parent, everything they do is out of love for their child and they
For
think
sure.
it's the right thing, but we need to help educate them so they know the best way to support their kiddos because they just a lot of times just don't understand. And the kid doesn't understand it. Like
Hmm.
they're just distraught. So
Yeah.
to normalize, and I think you also just saying that you deal with it a lot. Like, I think some people feel like this is just they're the only one going
Hmm.
through something, that so many athletes are faced with this,
Hmm.
daily, and just as their body changes, it can be as simple as you grew 2 inches and now your body is being
Yes.
like, "Whoa, what are we doing here?" You know, it
Hmm.
feels different,
Yes.
so yes, I think this is such a great, takeaway for everyone, you know, and that triad of athlete, parent, coach working together that's
Hmm.
so important. So now kind of just hitting it one more time, what is the do not, like, do not do for an athlete? You know, whether it be like an athlete, I think for me, a lot of times I'm like, please don't avoid it. It's natural to when like something is struggling and hard to
Hmm.
just avoid it at all costs. Instead, I think don't avoid it, you know, like get in there and do all the tools that you're kind of saying of the reps, the mental
Yep.
rep or the physical rep. But what about for an athlete? Would you be like, this is do not do this, you know, if when you're struggling in those kind of nerve pauses?
You kind of hit the nail on the head. Like it feels so much easier for these athletes to just predict their failure because that's affirmative, right? So if I line up in the corner and I say, okay, I'm going to do this pass, and then I don't, that doesn't feel very good. But if I line up in the corner and I say, "Ah, I'm not going to be able to do it," and then I go and I don't do it, I get to be like, see, I didn't do it. And that feels a lot better. It's the same thing watching the Cleveland Browns every weekend, right? We get to be like, oh, the Cleveland Browns suck. They're going to lose this weekend. And they do. And we're like, yes, see, I told you. Whereas if we every weekend, we're like, okay, this is our week. Like they got it. We can win this. Let's do it. And they lose. That feels crappy. And it's the same thing for these youth athletes. So I think you're right. The biggest thing to not do is to not attack it. Um, you have to be willing to fail and you have to be willing to build the resilience as you're failing. And I think it's a little bit easier if you kind of label that for the kids. Like, I don't expect you to be perfect. I expect you to try and fail because that's how we get better. It's the only way to learn is to fail. Um, as far as like specifically for somebody with nerve pause, um, I would also just encourage the athlete to explore other areas, even of their life. And I know that I'm talking more in like a to do, a positive. I think that's my nature because I always tell
Yeah,
the athletes like we can't conjure up an image for the word don't, right? So if I say
yeah.
don't think of an elephant, you think of the elephant, right?
Yes,
So I
yes.
always go towards the positive. But I have my athletes do an identity pie chart. So they kind of name the things in their life that they love and that bring them joy. And it could be hanging out with friends. It could be listening to music. I've had athletes in the past that are artists and they're skateboarders. It's crazy to be cheerleaders at the same time, but they do. That's a big
Yeah,
part of their life. So I have my athletes like label those things and then assign a percentage to them. Because what I find is the athletes that tie their self worth to their sport, it's disaster. Because what happens when you get something like a nerve pause? It's like your whole world, it's your whole life. You have
yes.
nothing else left, right? So we do the identity pie chart and I have them go back to that and just say, like, there are other parts in life than this very small skill that you're struggling with. Like, even in cheerleading is so much bigger than that, like we just talked about. But just overall in your life, like you just said your girls decorated their room for Christmas. That brings them so much joy. That brings you joy.
Yes,
Maybe it's not like a chunk on the pie chart, but like overall, it's a part of who they are. So
yes.
I always encourage athletes like, what do you like to do? What do you like to do with yourself? Do you like to go outside and jump on the trampoline? Do you like to write? Do you like to draw? Let's go back into some of those other activities. And if you can't find one, have your parents drive you to Michael's craft store. I don't know if you have that where you are,
We do,
but
we do.
there's a million things to do at Michael's. Like find
Yes.
a little project and work on that. You know, find a hobby. Teach your kids how to cook. Bring them into the kitchen. See if they like cooking or baking. Take them outside. Go for a run. There's so many other parts of life that they can discover where they're not zoomed in on cheerleading and zoomed in on tumbling. So I guess to answer your question, the one thing I would say not to do is zoom in on it completely, put it under a magnifying glass, that's not gonna make it get any better, like, zoom
Yeah,
out. Yeah,
absolutely, and I think
yeah,
that ties into now the pieces of that coach and that parent as well, to also not put the pressure that that is the only thing
yes.
that is important to us.
Mhm.
And I think, yeah, we talk about it a lot on these episodes about building a good person
Yes.
more important than a good athlete, and those things, then the things you want, the wins, it comes after you have that character, that mental all built in. Those next things come a lot easier. So I think that was
Yes.
a great one. And I know we've talked before about, the bribery type things, that
Mhm.
kind of motivation is not necessarily always healthy. And um,
Mhm.
also that to recognize again why you are so important and what you're doing is so important because in my experience of owning a gym for 20 years, kids that do struggle with some type of nerve pause, it can come again. Like it can come in a
Yes.
different spot, in a different way, but it kind of life ebbs and flows,
Yep.
like life is not one whole a plain. There's mountains and hills and valleys and rivers to cross. And so I think that training that mental muscle is just essential
Yes.
for the long term success of our athletes and just our children, as a parent too.
Yes. Mhm.
So yes, I really I love that you touch on that so much. So let's go back to how you were talking about building confidence. What are some ways we can support and build confidence in our athletes?
The biggest part of it is just that puzzle piece, right? So all of the things I talk about are mental, but when it comes to confidence, one of the biggest pieces is the physical side of it. We have to have reps to have confidence. We live in a 3D world. As much as I like to talk about manifestation, woo woo, bringing things to yourself, we live in a 3D world. So we have to have reps in. And one of my favorite sayings is when we're under pressure, we don't rise to the occasion, we sink to the level of our training, right? So we want to make sure that we're allowing our athletes to feel good by getting in those physical reps. I used to think that it was all reps and self-talk. Like I was like, okay, if we have those two things, like we're confident, right? But you want to make sure that you're doing all these other things I talk about. So the biggest one I think is those small wins and taking the proof, right? So I have my athletes not every week, but most weeks they'll have to tell me 3 small wins from their week, and it can be anything. Doesn't have to be related to their skill or related to cheerleading. They just have to tell me something that they won at in life, and it can be as easy as, "Kara, I felt really sick today, but I still got on this call with you." That's a win. We'll put it in the win column, that's gonna help you develop confidence. And there's a lot to be said, I think, for fake it till you make it, like, with this power stance that I just talked about, in your head, although the first P of power phrase or power stance is supposed to be your power phrase, right? But in your head, you could be thinking like, I'm freaking scared. But once you physically open your chest up and relax your shoulders and elevate your chin, like you're sending out confidence vibes to everyone, including
Yes.
yourself. So that's a big part of it. Um, and I can't knock the support aspect of it because, you think of professional athletes and they are so confident or they come off so confident, right? But you have to kind of do a little digging to find out, well, what was their growing up life like? Who was there to support them? I don't know if you've seen the movie with Michael Jordan, about Michael Jordan and his shoes, but just how like crazy involved his mom was in getting him
Yes.
those deals and how much she supported him. If you have someone in your ear that's like, yeah, you're the deal,
Yes.
like, that's where it comes from, It's hard to do it on your own. You have to have somebody there that's like, "Man, you're really good at this." And I think that's one of the biggest things we can do as a coach is not wait for it to be perfect to give the kids some praise, right? That's
Yes.
gonna level up their confidence so much to be like, especially with the little kids, "Oh my god, you guys, I can't believe you did that. That was amazing. You blew my socks off." Like,
Yes.
that's gonna go a long way for them. So the
Uh-huh.
support piece is huge. Also, just with the awareness piece and the kids being aware of their thoughts, we want to kind of label it for them when, failures happen and how they bounce back from it, because that will also build their confidence. So anytime, a mistake is made and we're just saying like, fail fast. The faster we fail, the quicker we're going to get to our goals so
Love
that
that.
they know, like, okay, I failed at this, but at least I learned something. That's also a big, huge piece of confidence, being able to bounce back from mistakes and being able to handle the criticism and the feedback, right? So sometimes I'll use that on a team. I'll say, guys, Susie just, made this mistake. But what I was really proud of is how she came back and did it again. And she did it even better. She took what I told her and she applied it and she made it better. So then you're using them as an example of like what you're looking for, right?
Yes.
So yeah, all of those things are, play a big role in it. Um, and I think they're equally as important. I think the sprinkle of delusion there at the end is probably the least one, but I think all of those
It is.
are big, big pieces of it. So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
you and I, as entrepreneurs ourselves, we had to be a little crazy, to be like, we can make this work. But we wouldn't be sitting here in roles that, we're passionate about and that we love if we didn't have a little bit of delusion kind of sprinkled in there as well. So when you're talking about confidence and as we head into comp season, I think it's really important to talk about how a coach should, handle maybe a mistake early on. We're at the first event of the season. Things aren't going your way, stunts are dropping. It, but we want them to bounce back. We want them to be able to come to another event in that same high pressure environment. How, as a coach, should we handle those setbacks? Like, how can we help set these kids to not have it be every event of the season we're kind of falling under pressure?
I think it's important for coaches to find a way that they can be successful. So in our gym, our routines, luckily at the gym I was at, our choreographer was also part of our staff. That's a huge advantage to have because he kind of builds the routine throughout the season, right? So the first time we're competing, it's the most watered down routine we're going to have all the way up to end of season events. So my advice to coaches is let your kids be successful. That might mean taking an elite skill out of your elites. It might mean taking a tumbling pass out, and you're not going to score as high as you want to, but like let them feel what success feels like. And
Yes.
that's part of building the confidence that we just talked about. Okay. But the other thing is, I used to think that hype was the way to go. This is a huge mistake that I made in my younger coaching years. So, Mayday to all the coaches listening. Do not do what I did. But at these high pressure events or high stakes practices, like we're talking about, I used to think that like hype was it, like hype these athletes up, take advantage of that adrenaline so that they can use it and get through these routines, right? Wrong. Because then what I got was out of control routines, just routines that are all over the place, skills all over the place. Nothing looks like it's in control. So that's where the calming down comes in, the breath work,
Breathing.
right? So we're just going to take it down a notch. We're going to lower our breath rate, lower our heart rate. It's going to help us focus. It's going to help things slow down so we can see our grips and know our counts and things like that. So, slowing down, I think, is number one. If you're in these high stakes situations, backstage or at practice, nothing's hitting. It's like, okay, let's just bring it down. Let's everybody take a few deep breaths and reset this. The other thing I think of is routines. And what I mean by that is not the sense of like cheer routines. I mean like a process, like step by step. So, for instance, a place kicker in football, the person that kicks the field goals. This guy's been kicking field goals since he was just came out of the womb, right? Like he knows
Yeah.
what he's doing. He can kick a
Yes.
field goal in his sleep. Okay. It's the first quarter of a game. They're up 14-0. He goes out, he kicks a field goal, easy peasy, right? But what changes when the stakes are higher? Maybe it's the end of the game, maybe it's the end of the playoff game, and he has to kick the field goal to win, or else they go home. That's a high pressure situation, and the routines are different. So if you watch, I love watching football games for this reason. When the kicker goes out in the first quarter and it's just an easy kick, his teammates don't say anything to him. He just goes out and does his job. He lines up the ball, it gets hiked, he takes his steps, whatever, he kicks his follows through. Nice toe point, I think. Um, but when the stakes are higher, people are patting him on the helmet. People are slapping him on the butt. The coach is talking to him. It's all different. The routine is totally different. So he goes out there and he's like, well, shoot, I got to
Yeah.
make this kick, or we're going to lose. So that breaks the process. So I would just encourage coaches to think about what that routine and process is. Every time you go to comp, should be doing the same things. You're meeting exactly the same amount of time early. You're doing the same exact pre warm up. You're doing the same warm up. You're doing the same breath work and visualizations. Like that is what's going to
Build confidence.
lower the pressure in those high
Mhm.
stakes situations. Like I said before, we don't rise to the occasion, we sink to the level of our training. So that goes back to let your kids be successful, right? We can't ask them to go out onto the floor and do a routine that's hard for them and hasn't hit at practice. Like make it something that's attainable
Yes.
to them. That's my
Yes.
advice.
Yes, that's so good. I love it. I mean, I need to come back and listen to the episode because I can't take notes while you're talking,
Yeah.
but there has been so many amazing things that I can't wait to go back to my staff and celebrate that like we're doing some things right but then also say like, man, we got to get better and this needs to be
Yes.
some things that we can continue to do in new ways. Because a lot of
Yes.
the times I think we get stuck in our ways of doing it and kids need variety and different
Hmm.
ways of making it fun and different lessons. And I love that you offer that, with your kind of more than the skill brand.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
really exciting. Okay. So now I want to talk about coaches and parents and their kind of mental health. And I know that you as a coach yourself, that balance of work and play, so like,
Hmm.
can you touch on the importance of that and your kind of advice or just kind of your view on that and what that should look like?
Yes. Absolutely. So coaches should be number one, coaches should be viewing themselves as a mirror. When you walk into practice, your kids will mirror your exact mood, your exact vibe. And that was a tough lesson to learn for myself in my younger coaching years. Like I wanted to be the coach that sat at the front of the floor and dictated. I thought that's what coaching was, right? Like you do this, you do that, you do this, and I'm
And
I'm
everyone just
angry.
listens. Yeah. No,
Yes,
yeah.
I'm angry because they're
Yep.
not listening, and I'm young, so I'm like, I think I'm right about everything.
Yes.
And once I got a wake up call in that regard, I realized like, oh, okay. they're being me. They're being me. I'm angry. I'm upset. I'm coming in bad mood. I'm sitting my butt on the ground and not doing anything. Why should they? Right?
Yes.
So as soon as
Yes.
you get your butt up, get on the floor with them, show them what you mean, talk to them in a respectful way, have fun with them, you are going to get so much more out of them. So just
Yes.
remember, I guess if there's one thing we're taking away, like they are mirroring you. So you be what you want them to be. You show up on time. You look prepared for practice. You have a a plan that's ready to go. And then they'll give that back to you. They'll reciprocate that. Now,
Yes.
I'm glad you brought up these, like, play and work balance because, oh, it's so important. And I think it's something that's so missing in youth sports today because, like I said before, we all want to be elite. We all want to go play professionally. And it's just not a realistic, s- it's not realistic for most of these kids, right? So it goes back to, I have a little like coaching triad that I use. And the basis of it is safety. So, number one thing that you're responsible for as coach, safety of your athletes. I mean that physically and I mean that mental and emotionally. Want to make sure our athletes are safe at all times. But beyond that, there's two other parts, and they are progression and fun. And they're pretty much weighted the same. They might change a little as the athletes grow, but younger athletes, they have to get better and they have to have fun. Because if you have one without the other, the balance is off.
Yes.
Parents that are in your viewing room, they want to see the athletes getting better. They want to see that their money is worth it, and they want to
Mhm.
see their kids having fun and getting something out of it, right? The athletes want to get better. They're just not in there to have fun all the time. They want to see their skills progressing because it makes them happy, right? So we have to be able to balance that. I consider myself a pro at being able to have fun with these kids and still get the work done that has to be done. So it's not easy, I will say. It's a culture that you have to set up in your gym. Sometimes it takes years,
Yes.
but it's a standard that you're setting for your athletes. So, and once the standard is not met, there's a consequence for that, right? But once the standards are met and we're putting in work and we're checking off our list for the day, like we're chatting it up, we're having fun. I'm
Yes.
coming into practice like, hey guys, what's up, chat? How was your day? Like, what's going on? What the heck are you wearing? Like, they're telling me jokes.
Yeah.
We're egging on each other. That's a vibe that's like, this is fun. I want to be here. And I will just note really quick that this goes a long way as far as your retention in your gyms because I want my kids coming out of that gym and going to their parents and be like, it's the best freaking time I ever had in my life. I want to tell all of my friends at school and I
Yes.
want everybody to come to this gym. That's what you want as a
Yes.
business owner, as a
Yes.
gym owner, right? So we have to be able to create that environment. And I think that starts with the communication piece that we talked about at the beginning of the episode, just opening up those lines of communication. For some of these kids, you are the person that they're coming to with their things. They don't want to go to their parents or to whoever else. It's like, hey, Coach Kara, this happened today and I'm not feeling so good about it. I'm like, don't worry, I got your back. I'll help you through it, whatever you need. So we want to make sure that we're that person for our athletes. And joke around with them. Like it's such an easy thing to do. I'm like, when your athletes are warming up, now don't get me wrong, there's a fine line between like we have work to do and I want your warm up to be tight and precise and I want you to look like you're ready to go, right? But I also can walk around and be like, hey, what's going on? Like joke around with them a little bit.
Yes.
And it keeps it fun. And I think a big part of this that I think a lot of coaches miss is the gamification piece. Like, if you guys can do one thing in your practice, it's just like make everything into a game. Kids are so competitive and
Yes.
they want to have fun. So, when you're cleaning your dance, like separate into two groups. Give this group like very detailed instructions. Like, you're going to do your dance, but you're only going to do the first 8 count, and then you're going to sit down crisscross applesauce and put your right hand in the air and they do it, but one girl doesn't put her right hand in the air. Okay, you
Yep.
guys lost a point. This group, you tried. And it's a game, and we're going back and forth, but we're still cleaning the dance, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
you can do stunt groups, and you're lining up your stunt groups at the end of the floor. And every time you hit the stunt, you move up, but you don't make it to be like hit your stunt. You make
Yes.
it to be like, oh, this group did it. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, you guys move up. Oh, this group try this to do
Yeah.
better, and then you guys get to move up. Gamify it, make it fun, make it fast paced.
Yes.
I think that's a good thing. And the same thing for the mental strategies. Like I don't have many where I'm just sitting down and talking to these kids like we're doing something. We're acting it out or we're writing it down or we're playing a game. So I think that's how you balance that work and fun. Um, but again, you have to set those standards and put those in place so that you're not getting walked all over and so that your apprentices are not efficient and you're not getting things
Mhm, and
done.
I think that's the hardest thing for coaches. Either
Yes.
it's too rigid or
Hmm.
they are way too fun and you're like, "Okay, well, we're not getting anything done." So it's
Yes.
finding that middle ground, and it takes a lot of time. I mean, a coach's job is not easy, and I think
Yes.
everyone thinks it is. If you're not in these roles, you think we just show up and it's just sunshine and rainbows all day, and we're not stressed about this kind of stuff and trying to make practice fun and figuring out how to reach kids. And I mean, shout out to coaches because all the things you're saying, they're important for. They are the ones that
Hmm.
are helping to build that mental muscle. I just read something where it said that any word you speak to a child or to a human, it's like cement on them, and like a lot of times I think in our role as a parent and as a coach or at athlete to athlete, like we forget that it's not something that bounces off like a ping pong
Yep.
table, like
Yep.
it sticks. And
Yep.
once it's stuck, it's a lot harder to get that kind of thought off. And
Hmm.
our words are really important in developing all the things that you're talking about. And so
Agreed.
that's another really important thing that we need to remember.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about more than skill. What are you offering? Like what a gym is listening to this episode. I know they're inspired. I know they're
Yep.
motivated to be better. A parent listening, an athlete listening. Tell us a little bit more about more than skill.
Yeah, so I basically just what I want to do is I want to get people, teaching these mental strategies. What I would love to do is come into your gym and do a little workshop. So we do usually an hour long workshop. I call it More Than Muscle, and it has all kinds of games and activities and writing exercises, and we have worksheets that we do, and just introducing the concepts to them and helping them to apply it to cheerleading. So that's my main offering. That's what I love to do. I still love to be up in front of the kids and helping them learn these new activities and these new strategies. I do have an ebook that the coaches can purchase if they want to start implementing this stuff and have a little bit more guidance. It's 12 mental strategy activities for youth athletes. Long title. I don't know why I did that. But you can download it on my website. And it does have 12 activities and it explains everything you need, like what you'll need for the activity, when you should be doing it, at what point of your season, and how to explain it all. So that is also a good place to start.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, so there's a bunch of free resources on my website. Just like you can just easily download it. There's like a mental block guide, there's a self-talk assessment quiz. There's a bunch of stuff in there for parents. There's a 10 questions to ask your athlete after practice. That's not just like how was practice, and we can
Yes.
avoid those shoulder shrugs and eye rolls.
Yes.
So that's a good one. Yeah, so check it out. I do offer private training. So for any athletes that feel like they want to work on their mental strategy, I meet with them for a half hour over Zoom. We do it once a week, and it's really helpful. Um, a lot of people think it's for athletes that are hurting in some way, but many times it's just athletes that want that competitive edge. So
Yes.
either way, yeah, that's what we're all about.
Yeah, that's so good. And okay, my advice to gym owners that are out there. Number one, if you're from New England, let's get here out here to some New England gyms. We have some really great friends within the industry. Specifically, Rocket Cheer is one of my girls, and we love to bring people in, and then we can split on your travel to get to us, and we'll
Okay.
kind of send you around to do some workshops with all of the gyms in our area. So if you are a New England gym, let me know, reach out because we're going to get her out to Northern Lights. I can promise you that.
Yay.
And we'd love to share that with our friends. And like I said, if you are a gym owner, when there are amazing people like this, it can seem, daunting or too expensive to just bring them in just for you. Reach out to your friends in the industry. And we've had some incredible people from tumbling coaches to
Yep.
mindset to, just working with our parents. But yeah, we can just kind of split on the cost of travel and it makes the industry better as a whole. So,
Absolutely.
uh, you are brilliant. I
Thank
knew
you.
today's episode was going to be great, but I mean, it's completely surpassed my expectations. I got, like I said, so much amazing information from you today. I have been in this game for a long time, and I'm always looking to continue to learn. And like you
It's
have
great.
me going phew today, and I'm so grateful for that. So I know
I'm
that
glad.
our listeners are going to love this episode. Thank you so much for what you're doing,
Yes.
your work in the sport. It's
Yep.
important. And needs to be, talked about more. And yeah, we're excited for you. So thank you for being here, and everybody reach on out to Kara
Yep.
and yeah, and more than scale. And we'll make sure to attach everything to this
Okay.
episode to make it easy for our listeners to find you. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for giving me a platform. I really appreciate it. I hope that everybody got tons of value. It was super fun. So thanks.
People like this, it can seem, daunting or too expensive to just bring them in just for you. Reach out to your friends in the industry. And we've had some incredible people, from tumbling coaches to
Yep.
mindset to, just working with our parents. But yeah, we can just kind of split on the cost of travel, and it makes the industry better as a whole. So
Absolutely.
uh, you are brilliant. I
Thank
knew
you.
today's episode was going to be great, but I mean, it's completely surpassed my expectations. I got, like I said, so much amazing information from you today. I have been in this game for a long time, and I'm always looking to continue to learn. And like you
It's
have
great.
me going phew today, and I'm so grateful for that. So I know
I'm
that
glad.
our listeners are going to love this episode. Thank you so much for what you're doing,
Yes.
your work in the sport. It's
Yep.
important and needs to be, talked about more. And yeah, we're excited for you. So thank you for being here, and everybody reach on out to Kara
Yep.
and yeah, and more than scale. And we'll make sure to attach everything to this
Okay.
episode to make it easy for our listeners to find you. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for giving me a platform. I really appreciate it. I hope that everybody got tons of value. It was super fun. So thanks.